And with us right now, we've got Jason Hartman. Jason, you're the founder and CEO of jasonhartman.com. Good personal branding, and of course, Hartman Media as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Josh. Good to be here.
So Jason, your background, and you've done a lot of work in real estate, and you've become a very well-known podcaster in this space as well. Yeah. Can you kind of talk about your story and kind of how you got into that position?
Sure. Well, I'm in the world that you're in. You help a lot of clients do some of the things that I've done the hard way and wasted a lot of money on over the years. So it's nice to see services like you have cropping up to help people and fill in the void here. When I was back in the world of traditional real estate many years ago, people were always amazed at how I did such a good job of branding myself before anyone ever used that term. This was before the era of social media, really before the internet. So I did publish a book on that back in 1999 called Become the Brand of Choice. So that was 20 years ago now. And then I sold my real estate company to Coldwell Banker back in 2005. I got into the business of helping investors buy properties nationwide. About a year into that business, give or take, Josh, maybe a year and a half or 2 years even, I discovered the world of podcasting. I heard Leo Laporte, the tech guy, on the radio when I was driving through Newport Beach one day, Newport Beach, California, and I was intrigued by the idea of podcasting. So I checked it out. I hired a consultant to help me get started, and I started my podcast back in the days when no one knew what a podcast was. And had a very good ride with that. And fast forward many years, I've got a whole podcasting company now, and we've published over 5,000 interviews, had many, many famous guests on my shows, and have listeners in 189 countries worldwide. So almost every country on earth is listening. So, for a while it was 165 countries, and then I checked again, and it's up to 189 countries. So,
who's
unfortunately,
left?
We don't have any audience in North Korea or Cuba, so we gotta add them.
They've eased up the borders now, so hopefully that's going to happen for you in 2020.
You never know. Maybe Kim Jong-un will start listening to my show.
So why content today? Why do you think content just absolutely rules, given where consumers, given where business owners are?
Yeah, I think we have no choice. It's a crowded marketplace. In every industry, it is very crowded. Everybody's out there. There's a lot of people. The number of industries haven't expanded that much. And being able to differentiate oneself for their narrow niche, their long tail, if you will, in specifically what they do, and also differentiate themselves from their competition, very important. People want content. Content builds brands. Brands are a form of shorthand that help people make up their mind. In the old days, maybe an example would help. If someone had an ailment, they would walk into the pharmacy in the old days. They would ask the pharmacist for a recommendation, right? And they would maybe buy that medicine to help them feel better. But nowadays, most consumers make up their mind before they need the product or service, okay? And that's why branding is so important, because having a brand, whether it be a product brand or a personal brand, is a form of shorthand. It helps the consumer decide quickly and in advance. We all know that the next time we have a headache, we can, reach for a Bayer aspirin, right? Or we know the brands out there. We already know them. We don't need a recommendation anymore, because advertisers and marketers have figured out that they need to plant that seed beforehand. I interviewed Harvey McKay on one of my podcasts once, and he's the guy who wrote all those books with the funny titles, How to Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive, Beware of the Naked Man Who Offers You the Shirt Off His Back. And one of my favorite book titles is Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. Dig your well before you're thirsty. So that's what big companies have done, right? They do this, but we as small entrepreneurs need to do this too. And when I started in the world of podcasting, I would just give. I would just give away free content. I would share my knowledge freely. And I just had the feeling that it would invoke that old biblical law of tenfold returns, right? Where if you just give, it'll come back to you. And if you don't want to use the biblical law, it's the law of cause and effect, right? Whatever it is. And so just putting good things out there, good knowledge, good information out there to consumers, being a consumer advocate, and really positioning myself as an advocate for the consumer. In my case, the consumer is a real estate investor or an investor of any kind, and just helping them make decisions. Many of them became clients of my real estate firm, and it's been a great ride ever since.
So of all the different ways that a new business owner could really focus on content, I mean, I think your biggest options are going to be, look, I'm just going to do an all out social media play. I'm not going to worry about anything else. And I'm just going to be a big shot on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or wherever it may be. That could be one option. You could also choose a video platform like YouTube, which, and again, I would hope that everything we're talking about right now, you would repurpose what you're doing, and you would try to be, maybe in a couple of different places by doing one thing and then reusing what you've already invested in. Jason, you and I have talked about that.
By the way, that's a great point. If you can create the content once and repurpose it many different ways, that is very efficient and a very good idea.
Yeah, it's you and I were talking before this call, we were talking about, just how much as the founder of an organization, as a CEO, as the leader of an organization, you're dispensing a lot of, and we'll call it thought leadership. I know some people are uncomfortable with that term, but you're teaching a lot of valuable stuff throughout the day. So let's say you're having a conversation with a partner, you're doing an interview with someone, or you're being interviewed. Why not take that content or find a way to capture that in some way and repurpose that for an audience who like, oh my gosh, I would love to be a fly on the wall while Jason Hartman is dispensing some, wisdom about some of his most difficult real estate transactions.
Right.
So we shouldn't be siloing all the work that we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it. And the best way to do that is to use video, because video can be repurposed so many ways. First off, you create the video, you stick it on YouTube and the other video platforms. Yeah. Then you can take and rip the audio track from it, use it as a podcast.
Yeah.
And then you can have that transcribed and it's a blog post, essentially, right? Or it's an ebook. There are many different ways to do that. And there are a lot of automated services that make that pretty easy to do nowadays that kind of automate those processes, SaaS software products, et cetera, that help you do that. But then you can cut the content up into small slices and do it that way. I think you were the one actually that told me about the Headliner app before.
Yeah. So for Headline, and I'll tell you,
that's kind of a cool
we're going to geek
app.
out on podcasting here for a little bit. So we've been doing a lot of testing on what could we possibly share on social that will actually benefit our end user the best, get the most engagement, get them off of there, get them listening to the other content. And I have found consistently that video, like doing your interviews on Zoom, capturing that video, sharing 30 to 60 second video snips of the conversation outperforms Headliner. Like if it's just like the little waveform and the cover art, I don't think those really do very well. Like I don't see social media as a very audio centric.
I agree with you. Audio does not work well for social media. However, I do like the audio medium the best. Personally, as a consumer
for consuming
of
content, yes.
Yeah, because it's portable. I can listen while I'm walking the dog at the grocery store, in the car, whatever, working out, doesn't matter. And so that's great. Video, there are people that just kill it with video.
Yeah.
And for social media, you do need to have a video. It's much better.
Yeah.
And those short clips are very powerful.
I completely agree. So, Jason, I was going to say, there's also, I guess, printed content, which again, if we're repurposing, so right. if you are at the, here's my advice. I'd love your take on this. Mm-hmm. So if you're at the point with your content where you could pretty much turn on a camera and you can probably freewheel it for about 5-10 minutes mm-hmm. and teach.
Right.
Well, that's a blog post right there. Have someone transcribe it, kind of clean it up a little bit. And right. I mean, that would be another way, right? Because I know Google really loves that written content, and mm-hmm. they're starting to get smarter about indexing audio and
they are. That's going to be great for me when that happens. I've been waiting for a long time.
Yeah. So talk about the business of Hartman Media then. So obviously, you have a farming approach to growing your business where you're just planting seeds. People are really getting to build a relationship with you. And then what happens? I mean, ultimately, you would hope then that a percentage of those people would do what with you?
Well, when you become that thought leader, that trusted source, then people will come to you. They will seek you out. They want that brand, that person that they know, like, and trust, and they view as an expert. And remember, there's two kinds of trust, right? There's do I trust you? Are you not a crook? Right? But there's also competence trust. Yeah. One attorney that I work with, I trust the guy. I just don't think he's very competent. Okay. And so, he reaches that Peter principle pretty quickly. A level of incompetence is the famous book and concept called the Peter principle.
Yeah.
So it's two types of trust that you need to engender in your audience, right? And they will seek you out. They will come to you. And the thing is, in the old days, when content wasn't scalable like it is today, you couldn't play the game the way we do it now. Because you would have to go, the only way you could do it is really as a radio or TV talk show host, or a speaker. And if you had access to the stages, you could influence people. But for normal people, you couldn't do that because there weren't that many media outlets for radio and TV, right? There were much fewer, and now there's tons of them, right? Because everybody's their own media station nowadays, right? And there weren't that many stages either, right? There's still a pretty limited number of stages. So you would have to that would boil down to a sales presentation that's usually one-on-one, okay? And content marketing wasn't efficient in the old days, but now it's become efficient, and that's why it's worth doing now. It's worth giving, and you'll give a lot. And at first you'll just feel like you're just giving, and nothing's coming back. But you got to stick with it long enough for it to work. The saddest thing, Josh, is to see people just give up too early.
Agreed. And so, Jason, how do you make your money then? What's your business?
Well, in the real estate business, basically clients, we essentially are a referral network, kind of a blend of a referral network and a brokerage firm. And people come and buy properties through our network, and we get paid referral fees on those deals. And, it's great. We help clients build portfolios of single family homes in different markets that we check out and recommend to them, and we provide them with properties they can actually buy. So it's not that typical kind of BS guru model where you're just selling information products, which isn't always BS, but I'm saying that in our business, we're connected more to the outcome because we actually have to provide properties that meet the criteria we're preaching about. So that's hard. That's a whole nother layer of complexity, but we do that. And because I have a background in the traditional side of real estate for so long before this, I understand that pretty well.
Think about the evolution of where consumers have been leading businesses to, and we're all consumers, by the way. So if you sell B2B, B2G,
right,
B2, whatever, we're all consumers. But think about this, where I think in the olden days, as a business owner, you really needed to be your company's best salesperson. And it was always be closing, you know, to always be selling.
Yep.
But
ABC,
today,
always be closing.
Always be closing. First prize, Cadillac Eldorado.
Or that movie about the sleazy guys in the boiler room, Glenn Ross.
I mean, it's real. So, I mean, that's sales, you know, but it's interesting. You're a successful business owner. I don't really see you as a high pressure salesperson. I see you as more of an evangelist.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
How wonderful is it that when you wake up in the morning, you think about, what am I going to do today? I get to give more value to people. I get to help people's problems. And if they like me and they like the products and services we've set up, well, then they can give me money. Sure. But I don't even have to worry about that because I've planted so many seeds. There's just this natural, you know, marketing process that just happens where you don't have to work on more and more like magnetic copy. And I, you know, I know that there's this side of, you know, the marketing world that's, you know, just, you know, you're one funnel
Dan
away.
Kennedy side, right?
Oh, say that again?
Yeah. That, like the Dan Kennedy side, right?
Yeah, sure.
And that stuff, you know, that stuff, I believe it definitely works. It's just not my style. You know, I think that the days of selling are somewhat gone. The days of marketing, and specifically content marketing, like the stuff both you and I are teaching here, are definitely with us to stay. That's like the next evolution of it. Because if you think about it, the concept of selling, you know, and I remember when I was, you know, 19 years old, and I went to a Tom Hopkins seminar. And, you know, nothing bad about Tom Hopkins. He was great in his day. It's just a different era, that's all. And, you know, a lot of the selling concept is manipulative. It involves a consumer that doesn't have as much information as the salesperson does. And so the salesperson was in a position where they would manipulate that consumer who was at a disadvantage because they didn't have as much information. Nowadays, though, the consumer is empowered with information. And so instead of fighting that trend, like occasionally I know everybody listening in their life runs into one of these old-fashioned salespeople, right? Maybe they're trying to sell you a car or a water filter or whatever else, right? Yeah. And, you know, they're kind of like manipulative and they're spouting out a bunch of information, and they sort of act like we can't cross-check what they're saying. You know, we can just go and type in and do a search and verify that. Now, granted, everything you read online is certainly not true either, okay? But, you know, if you read it in enough places and you use your common sense, you can get some idea as to what's true and what's not true. Yeah. And, you know, make sure you trust the source, you know, make sure when you're reading something, it's not just a competitor bashing them, right? Because, you know, like Yelp, if you look at Yelp reviews, you know, all the negative ones are basically written by people's competitors. All the super positive ones are written by themselves. What's in the middle is probably what's more accurate, right? So you need to use common sense, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But
I always look for the 2, 3, and 4-star reviews first.
Yeah,
good. And I figure these people are probably a little bit more objective. Like, yeah, they may have had a negative experience in something, but you know, they're still not gonna.
And they didn't do it necessarily in the heat of anger either, right? You know, because if you had a bad experience at a restaurant, you're just mad. You know, then you know might write that 1-star review, right? But the point being that you know, we shouldn't fight the trend. We should empower the consumer with more information, right? That's why I love content marketing, because when the consumer is more empowered, it actually makes our job easier.
Yeah.
Okay. My investment counselors in my real estate company, you know, they need to be knowledgeable, but they don't need to be more knowledgeable than the consumer, right? The consumer can actually have the greater amount of knowledge. And what you find is that consumer is much easier to work with if they're empowered and knowledgeable.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas the old style of sales is the opposite of that. Yeah. And so that's why I really think content marketing is a great thing.
So Jason, I'm on your website right now, jasonhartman.com, and it's HARTMAN.com. And I clicked on About, and then I see that either you spend a lot of time at Madame Tussauds, or you actually have met a lot of celebrities.
That's the wax museum, right?
Yeah, right. Well, that's an easy way to knock these out. So I see Jerry Seinfeld, Richard Branson, Tony Robbins, Steve Forbes, Zig Ziglar, Britney, Steve Aoki. I mean, you got Ringo Starr. You actually have a photo of you and a Beatle.
Yeah, I'll tell you how I got, I got all those photos differently, okay? None of them are wax. They're all the real people. But basically, like Richard Branson, I met through a mastermind group I'm involved in with a bunch of friends. I went to Necker Island, his private island, a couple of times. Jeez. And I did that over the course of a couple of years. I went there twice. And, Jerry Seinfeld, I basically bought a meeting with Jerry Seinfeld at a charity auction.
Oh my gosh.
I'll donate to charity and you get to hang out with a celebrity. And so, that's just kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I figured, I was kind of, I guess, unconsciously almost sort of collecting celebrity photos. And I thought, why am I not using this and putting it on my website, right? Mm-hmm. So I put those pictures up there, and it's great. And so you meet all these people very different ways, right?
Yeah.
But those are some of the ways you can do it. Yeah.
So you either get, instant authority from people who really appreciate it, or at the very least, someone's going to say, well, I bet he has some really interesting stories of meeting all these folks.
Right, yeah. I don't know that having a picture with Britney Spears gives me any sort of credibility. Maybe it might lessen my credibility, actually. But hey, she's famous. I'm not even into her music, but I got a photo op with her, so I'll take it.
Yeah. Jason, what's a great front door for people to kind of begin to engage? I would imagine your podcast would be great. What are some other things that people could kind of get to know Jason?
Right. Well, I've got a whole bunch of podcasts. So my first one that I started many years ago was the Creating Wealth Show to teach investors how to invest properly. And, I had a lot of experience investing before that. And so I just share my experience, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And, but overall, the upward trend is very positive with it. And so I've got a podcast on a whole variety of subjects, and people can find those all at hartmanmedia.com, or just type my name, Jason Hartman, into any podcast platform. You'll see my longevity and biohacking show, my real estate financial shows, entrepreneurship shows, and just a whole bunch of that. I love interviewing people and learning from them. And so I might as well record that interview and share it with the world. And so, it just increases the knowledge base of all of us. So.
Yeah, excellent. Well, Jason, thank you so much. Again, the Creating Wealth Show, certainly kind of a good hub to everything that Jason is doing, is at jasonhartman.com. Jason, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Josh, thank you. Happy investing to you and your audience.